here's the gold. The more real you are, the better. I make fun of myself because here's the reality is somebody's going to do it anyway. It might as well be me, right? And then it hurts less. This was not something that was easy for me because of personal ideology about myself, or things that I felt. But also it wasn't something we grew up in, right? I mean, we didn't you weren't plastering your life all over. And now I find actually people want to know about you.
Welcome back to the Sugar Mommy podcast. I'm your host, Kareen Mills. And today, I'm so excited that you guys get to hear one of my dearest friends, Dawn Jensen-Beaudoin. Dawn has been a realtor for 15 years. She is a contracting nerd, wife, mom of 3, and she helps people buy and sell homes with an insider eye for construction and a parent's eye for real world functionality. Equal parts hard-nosed negotiator, watch out people, home structure expert, and chaotic household survivor. Welcome to the podcast, Dawn.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We are excited to be here. We're just going to go dive deep into this whole episode because we have a lot to talk about. All right, Dawn, what is the belief or practice that's widely accepted in your field, but that you strongly disagree with? We want to hear this.
People aren't going to like that I say this, but it's reducing your commission. So I have to be honest with you. It's something I detest because I feel like if I came to you and said, Kareen, I'd really love for you to help me get this, SBA loan, and I want you to do it for nothing or next to nothing. Can you do that for me? I feel like people would be a little bit offended by that. So, and the other reason I feel this way is because what people don't realize is at the beginning of the year, before we even sell one house, we're already in debt. We're on the come for everything. We're literally like this venture capitalist that fronts all the money on a maybe, right? So I don't think people realize how much, number one, it costs to hold the license, which I'm so grateful to have. But also, even when we list a house, we're doing all of the marketing before we even, are going to get a paycheck. We're spending sometimes, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 depending on the property, just on the marketing, the staging, getting it ready. Not to mention the man time, the hours, the consultations. And you could just at the end of the day cancel your contract with us, and we're out all of that money. So to come to me right away and ask, hey, Dawn, I interviewed you, and while I love you and I really want to go with you, but so-and-so Susan said she would do it for 2%. Would you do it for 2%? And what the first thing I want to say to them is, no. And here's why. Because number one, if I can't negotiate my commission, I'm not going to be able to be a strong negotiator for your personal residence or property.
Okay.
That's how I feel about it.
So when you get started, because we obviously have a variation of listeners, we have people or realtors that maybe are just starting their career, or they just passed their tests, or they're into the job for 1 year, 2 years, just barely scraping by, because I have seen the data on realtors of the average income of every realtor. Of course, I feel like it's distorted knowing who you are. Like a lot of the people I'm surrounded with are really good producing realtors, but there are people that are struggling. So is that something that maybe the homeowner will pitch you against because they are willing to take a less than commission as opposed to someone that's highly seasoned, highly added value? You have construction, you were a GA before you became a realtor. You have all these, you own a cleaning company, you have all these under your belt. You bring so much more value than a realtor that may have only been, 6 months into the job or 2 years into the job. What are some of those tips you can give them? And how do they, when you're new, you just want to take everything. How do they then decipher from, do I go ahead and take this job and do a really good job just like somebody seasoned, or do I create the boundary today, now, even though I'm struggling financially.
Mhm. I think that's a good point. What you said last was they need to learn right out of the gate. And I do mentor new agents on how to protect their commission. We are worth it. We are skilled. And I don't think that they should be intimidated by the fact that they may not have sold one single house. There's still skills that they have when I interview them coming on board to our franchise that I try to point out are things that are of value in this industry. So if they've been a salesperson inside, outside, if they've done customer service, because really at the end of the day, we're selling a service, not a house. The houses can sell themselves. You're either going to walk in and you're going to love it and it's been staged nicely, or you can get past all of that. It's the behind the scenes service that we sell. So when I meet with young agents, and I was one of those young agents and afraid, had never even owned a house, let alone sold a house. I think my mentor literally tooled me up and said, you know what, stand firm on your commission. And I also have to tell these agents, you want the room also to negotiate your own commission if something happens in the deal and you have meat on the bone still to say, hey, we're about $2,500 difference, but you know what? I want to give part of the commission you have promised me back to you so that we can keep this together. So I think what I do really out of the box for young mentees, young people in the industry, if they want to come talk to me, is I try to give them skills to be confident in the interview. And tell them not everybody is your client. I think the interview is not just somebody interviewing me. I'm interviewing them. Do I want to work for them? Because I certainly don't want to work, I'll be honest, with somebody that doesn't want to work with me, because the process is emotional, financial. We're in your relationships, your home. We're really all up in it with you. And, that's why I say you're going to be my best friend at the end of this, because it's true, because we get so intimate and in places that you might not be willing to share. And whether you want to at the beginning or not, you are during the process. We have to be comfortable with each other. So I try to encourage them to realize this isn't just an interview for them hiring you. You're deciding whether you want to work with them. And you need to be confident when you walk in the door that we have tooled you up enough and we've done a lot of practice before you go in the door, that the very last thing that you need to be talking about is your commission. And will you do it for a reduction? You say, hey, exactly the things that I just shared with you. This is the reason why I'm not willing to do that. But I'm not saying that during the process that might not change.
Yes, it is so tasking already. I mean, you look at the tasks that you guys have to do just to get a house sold if it does sell. I remember talking to you beginning of the year. It has been slow, so you have to eat. And sometimes those other months that you may sell houses because you're commission based, purely
Mhm.
100% commission, that might be when you actually have to eat. And if you cut your commission, then something has to give. And part of those things that has to give, sometimes you have to think about your family unit too. You have to think about your own, I would say, goal, your financial goal as an
Mhm.
individual,
Right.
because believe it or not, we all have financial goals and those financial
Right.
goals need to be fed.
Mhm.
Granted that you are valuable or you deliver way more value than what it costs the homeowners, it's definitely something that a lot of the newer agents are blessed enough to have you as a mentor. Now, we're talking about mentorship. And I know that you mentor several agents. Dawn is, for context, a designated broker for Realty One Prestige.
Actually, just a sitting
A
manager. So
sitting
yeah, I'm
manager,
not a
excuse me.
designated broker. Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
Sitting manager for Realty One, and she mentors a lot of people. Now, how many people do you mentor? That's question number one. Number two, what is your favorite part of mentorship? And then what is your least favorite part of mentorship? Only if you're willing to share that last question.
I think that it's a good question and I should share it. So I started out just wanting to help everybody because I was helped by so many people, especially because I was a divorced single mom. I didn't know what I was doing. I was afraid, just like everybody is coming into this year. Like you pointed out earlier, you're starting out with nothing, right? You're just praying for that first paycheck, and that paycheck could be 30 to 60 to 90 days away. So you're freaked out, right? And where am I going to get the business? I don't even know how to do this. business, right? It's not the back end and the contract and all of that. All of that can come when you get in an offer, but it's actually attaining the business, right? So, but I mentor four active agents usually on any given time because I want to make sure that I am available to them endlessly because that's what it takes. That's what was done for me. I answer my phone. I think you can talk to most of them. And I always tell them, I don't care if you've asked me the question 10 times, call me again if you're unsure, because we want them to be safe, right? We want them to do all the right things because we want them to continue to be realtors and not lose their licenses or not be compliant. So, I would say my favorite thing about mentoring is probably exactly what I did yesterday. There was two agents that came in and I didn't realize actually that I had overlapped them and the collaboration that went on because one was very, very new, has not even written an offer. And the other one has written some offers, but it's been a long time since she's written an offer, since like November. So they were willing to sit together, one learning from the other through a offer that we were writing and presenting and talking through scenarios with presenting to the seller. And we ended up being here for 3 hours. And I said, well, I'm sorry if I just spit up a bunch of information on you. And they were so like seeing that, like they were so happy to have the information and they felt more tooled up when they left. That's probably my favorite part is the collaboration and the fact that you get these agents in a room. We do that every Monday. They will start hooking up with each other and doing open houses together and collaborating together. You know, I think some people think this is like a dog eat dog business. I find it to be very collaborative, and that's one of my favorite things. One of my least favorite things is babysitting. And I tell agents this when they come to me and ask me, because I've actually had agents come to me and ask me, which I feel very honored
Mhm.
that I have that respect out there. But when they come to me and ask me, I say, listen, I've already had three children and raised them. You are welcome to all of my knowledge because I didn't invent it. I'm standing on the shoulders of many other people. And God loves Shelly Schmitz because she answered every phone call, never left me hanging when I started. And that was very helpful because I was blessed enough to do like 36 deals in my first year, right? And that was just like
Wow.
trial by fire, right? And every one of them seemed to have a problem. It's the funniest conversation we have when we get back together. It's like, you went through a lot, like in the first year. So, and I remember crying in our office, but I I can't want it more than you do, right?
Mhm.
And I do. That's the thing because I'm a mom. I'm like, come on, but you can do this, right? But I figured it out after mentoring, having a team, then having a team again. I'm not going to chase you. You can call me at the beginning of the week or even every day and go, what appointments are you going on? Can I shadow you? I'm absolutely most times going to say yes after I talk to my clients and make sure that's okay, explain to them. And most of them are very gracious, but I don't want to chase you. And I also don't want to see you fail so that's a dichotomy for me that's hard
Ooh,
because
yeah,
you know, it's like now you're my baby. I've agreed to mentor you, but if you're not going to engage, it's not going to work. So
it's so true.
that's the thing that is not, I wouldn't say I hate it. I'm just disappointed by it.
Yeah. It's a two-way street, just like anything, just like any relationship. You have to
Mhm.
put in, and what you put in, you get out of, and then some. I feel like when you have a mentor, they're called a mentor for a reason because they will give you more than what you need. But you have to at
Yes.
least want that need. You have to at least create a desire to want
Mhm.
more for your life than what is presented to you, or the circumstances that you're presented can sometimes take you out, or the noise in our head that's so noisy in there. You have to build that skin in the game to make sure that those noises can get regulated.
Right.
In speaking of noise, when you talked about the 90 days where it's just so dry, there's nothing going on, not
Mhm.
that you're not doing any activities, not that you don't have any
Mhm.
listings or
Yeah.
marketing appointment with people, how do
Yeah.
you manage and regulate your nervous system aside from living on a 20 acre that has all surrounding you with nature that naturally
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
gets you, regulated from the moment you wake up, you hear the birds chirping. But from a practice perspective or from a mentor perspective, when somebody's struggling, what are some of the tips that you create or share with your mentees that you yourself, of course, we have to practice what we preach, that
Yes.
you yourself
Mhm.
do when those little pockets of non-producing or non-revenue. You're doing producing activities, but the revenue isn't kind of coming. What are some of
Mhm.
those?
Well, and I think you bring up a good point. Like I have a couple of colleagues that I talk to, and that living, we automatically go back into that living from scarcity, right? And that's not necessarily the best mindset, right? So once you start having all of that self-talk and everything, I'm like, you need to pick up the phone and call me, call a buddy that you've been working with, something, because we're all struggling.
Mhm.
The market this year is something I have not seen. I mean, I've only been in it 15 years, but in my 15 years, this is, I talk to more and more people to say this is an unheard of market. We don't even know what to do, right? You're having to have very difficult conversations with sellers where listings are sitting and they don't necessarily want to, reduce the price. You've done everything, you've tweaked photos, and like you said, we're doing lots of stuff that they don't even see, doing touches, or informing neighbors or remarketing or social media videos. And, there is so much that we're doing, and you can get kind of disheartened by that yourself, let alone having to have those difficult conversations. So for my mentees, I'm like, listen, you got to keep plugging away, right? You got to keep sitting those open houses, even when only one person comes in, because that one person might be your client, right? You got to write the thank you notes and make the contacts and go into local businesses and keep doing the, informational videos on what's available in the area. Keep educating yourself, because when it hits, and you don't have the time to do those things. So the quiet time, if you change your mindset and see it as prep time, it's actually gold. Because I'm going to reveal something about myself right now that's embarrassing, but
Ooh.
I've been in the business this long and I have never had an actual CRM complete everything in one place. And I'm doing that right now. I have made a commitment to myself this year, and I've made it a ton other times, but everything's going to be in one place so I can have an actual newsletter, an actual database that I can update, be a grown up, as I say. The other thing I did for myself this year was I actually developed a real big girl website, right? So when people go search me, worked very closely with SEO and AI and all those things to have the keywords and the presence and talk about my strengths,
Mhm.
contracting background, different things. How do you highlight and differentiate, right? So I tell the newbies, and there's about 4, like I said, that I'm working with now. Now's the time to brand yourself. Now's the time to educate. Now's the time to educate the public on what you do and what the inventory is, even if it's not yours,
Yep.
because all of us are willing to share. We want our listings to sell. So if you see a listing that's been sitting, say, hey, would you mind if I came and did a video? Try to do a vacant one. You don't want to bother a family unless it's something where you're like, would they mind? But I think they need to treasure the downtime, because when it gets busy, and for newbies, like 3 deals is feeling busy, right? They're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my mind. And then they automatically do the same thing we all do. They stop looking for new business.
Wow.
And then they realize, after all those deals and all the hard part of it and doing, figuring it all out and stressing out, then you have no more business and you're starting over.
Yep.
So that momentum that you gained is lost. So that's the hardest conversation to have, to get through to them, is don't ever stop even when you're tired, right? Take a minute, regroup, go play with your goats, do whatever, throw some wood around, stack wood. That's my notorious, right? Get your mind right and then get back to it, right? Because eventually that funnel's going to get so full that it's going to start trickling through and it's going to be constant. But even then, you have to keep filling the funnel. And that's the biggest mistake I see, including myself, people make. You just get like, sweet, I've got 11 in the hopper, and blah, things are great, and it's going to be a good year. And if I didn't sell another property, I'd be fine. Worst thing I see a lot of agents do is take the winter off. I'm good, had a great year. They're checking out for December and January. And December and January are hard, but the people selling the houses during that time have to sell, and the people having to buy are having to buy. It doesn't matter what the weather's doing, right? They obviously have to do it. So I tell people that's when you need to be on your game, sitting open houses
Wow.
in the rain, putting the signs out, doing it all, because this is stuff that they aren't doing. So there's a huge opportunity for you there, to gain clients that might just happen to walk in because they got to buy a house, whether it's raining, snowing, sleeting, life is putting them in a position where they have to be buying or selling a house.
Yeah. I love that. And what I was taking out of what you just said is borrowed success. So if you're new, even if it's not your listing, you borrow success from other successful professional, because when you do that and surround yourself with other people that are also
Yes.
successful, it sort of creates that energy. And you talk about momentum, and I call it energy, but it creates that energy to
Mhm.
drive to getting some business and finally getting paid. The other thing that I wanted to just highlight the fact that even though you've been in the business for 15 plus years, you are seasoned professional. You're actually,
Mm.
what I'm seeing you do is you're embracing technology and you're embracing social media. And a lot of people, especially in our ages, or X generations, there's
Yeah.
a lot of resistance when it comes to technology, social media, CRM.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've resisted
Mhm.
it for so long, finally have to
Yep.
do it. But
Yep.
why now? Because obviously you've been, let's just say you started about 13 years into the business, because I know you've
Mhm.
been kind of starting to climb that ladder
Yeah.
in technology and social media and getting used to it and now
Mhm.
having so much
Yes.
fun creating. So,
Yes. Yeah.
why now, after so long, that you're finally embraced all of that? And when should somebody, especially the newbies again that are listening to this podcast, or if you are looking into getting into real estate, obviously you're going to talk to Dawn, and we're going to leave all of her information right down here below on the show notes and the YouTube notes. But what are those things that you want to leave, like wisdom wise, to people that are maybe aspiring to become a realtor, or newer realtors to have yet to embrace those magic, or even seasoned realtors like you?
Well, I think that the best advice I got was probably from Larry Hales, and it was, you know what? You have not even tried. And what's the worst that could happen? I didn't like myself on video. We all don't like things about
Oh,
ourselves,
yeah.
right? And we all, oh, I'm going to record it 15 times. When I finally engaged, and I think every new agent should do this, and all of the young ones, especially because they're not afraid of it. They're already doing it. So now just turn it to your business, right? It's easy for you. This was not something that was easy for me because of personal ideology about myself, or things
Mm.
that I felt. But also it wasn't something we grew up in, right? I mean, we didn't you weren't plastering your life all over. And now I find actually people want to know about you. And here's the gold. The more real you are, the better. I make fun of myself because here's the reality is somebody's going to do it anyway. It might as well be me, right? And then it hurts less, right? So even if I don't like a video, Kaminani, God love her. Man, Kaminani is my gold, right? She's my back end, makes me look amazing on videos or silly on videos. And I send her all these ideas and she captures them. But, you know, um, I will get a video from her and it's so cringeworthy. And wouldn't you know that video does the best? Like every time, right? I'm like, oh, I don't want to post this, right? Or one was I said the F word, right? Well, everybody that is around me all the time knows that the F bomb is going to come out. It might be a minute, but it's going to come out, right? And sometimes that's the only word, right? It doesn't mean that I'm not a Christian and a good woman and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it just comes out. Sometimes do I cringe? But I've gotten better about knowing my audience and when it's appropriate. But you know what? For some reason, the F bomb got like 20,000 views because I said, who the F would buy this house? Right. And it was silly. But what I started doing was watching, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I was watching
Nope.
other people do video and I would just scroll and go like, I like this one. I like this one. Let's do some variation or let's just copy it. They don't care. They feel flattered by the fact that you're copying it. Right. And sometimes I'll even tag the agent and just go, then I started asking people, this is the number one. If you don't have anything to do, you should be sitting open houses. I don't care what people say. And if you're getting other information, come talk to me. And you should be calling other agents and asking if you can do video tours of their houses because that's going to do a number of things. It's going to get you in front of people, having conversations and learning the vernacular of this business, right?
Mhm.
Get a lender to go with you because they will teach you as well. Um, because really women, we shouldn't be alone in houses nowadays anyway, but
No.
bring a great lender. That what's the worst that you could do? You're fostering a relationship for 2 hours, right? Or bring your thank you cards and you're contacting people and getting some work done where you might have just screwed off all of Sunday, right? But and videoing other, how are you going to get into houses if you're new? You have no clients. Call these agents. They're very nice, and just say, or come to me and say, what agents can I call? And they won't be mean. Just call them and say, hey, I'm new in the business. I'm just trying to get to know inventory. Looks like you've had a listing that's been sitting for a while, or it's gorgeous. I'd just love to show it. Can I do some social media? I'll tag you in the post. Okay, extra marketing for me, inventory for you. Maybe somebody will see it on your social media and that's compounded. So get out there, do something, right? And don't be afraid of it, because what's the worst that could happen? My worst videos, seriously, if you go look at my social media, have probably gotten the most views. And I don't even care. And then answer the negative comments.
Mm.
I was so afraid to answer the negative comments. And it doesn't mean you have to say something mean. You could just say, well, that's a point of view, but blah, 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 right? And if they're particularly nasty, I just go, I don't really need you to follow me. And to get rid of them. But,
True.
I just find that if you answer the negativity, I did see that this happens. It actually just pushes it out even more
Yep.
in the algorithm, right? And you're getting more views and more whatever. And it's controversial. Talk about it. Talk about the commission. Talk about my paycheck. I make $20,000 sometimes. Do I bring that home? No, I don't. Ask me about it. I'll break down a complete check for you and tell you at the end of the day, after I pay my brokerage, my taxes, all the money that I spent throughout the year, and if this is the only house that I closed, I might only make $1,000 off that deal. Now, is that honest? It is, but it depends on the factors. Sometimes I sell 14 houses, and yes, I'm making a good paycheck, but you know what? You guys also don't know what we do in the background, and it's a lot. I did not know I was going to be a psychiatrist, a relationship expert, a banker. I need to connect everybody, a cleaner. I need to have all the resources. I'm solving multiple problems that you don't even know about so that we can just come to you with answers and choices. So, I think before you judge, I would never go to an attorney and go, are you really worth the $5,000 retainer? I don't know. you know, but they even get money before we do. We're selling your house without even having money in the pocket.
Yes, yes. You guys are amazing. And I think that we talked a lot about just the business model that a realtor has to go through. And I hope that the listeners are sort of not to discourage the ones that are aspiring to
Oh,
be a realtor.
mhm.
We
Yes.
want you to go forward with it, but having that transparency and understanding what you're getting into. Like for me, I get excited when I hear a lot of challenges. So I don't know about you, but
Yes.
like, oh, I can do that. When I'm presented a bunch of challenges, I always say, I can do that. It's
Right.
even
Well, and
more.
if you come, I'm real. When people come and sit in front of me, and you could probably even interview people that have been my mentees in the past, I'm just completely honest. I'm like, can you do this job? Yes. Is it going to be a lot of work? Yes, it is, but can be amazing, right? I got both my kids to go to college and my son a car, and, things I never would have thought as a single mom being on welfare that I could ever do for them. But you know what? There are lean times too. And it's a difficult business, and it's not for everybody. When you come and sit in front of me, you're like, well, I've just loved houses my whole life. I'm like, okay, that's not really what this is. And you've kind of told me a lot in your first few seconds. And then I try to dig deeper to just give you a chance. But I'm like, if you just think you're going to be opening doors, you are in for a smackdown. And you probably should keep your day job before you get too far into this or too vested, because that's not what we do. That really isn't what we do. I love getting to open doors, and I would beg, please call me to work with a buyer right now, because I would love to show some houses. I love my sellers. I understand why listing agents want to be listing agents, because sometimes it sucks to sit a 3-hour inspection and, all of the running around that comes with buyers. I would love to work with you. I want to go show houses again. So, super blessed in my business, super blessed by my referrals, super blessed by business partners. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, we work really hard. And that's why, again, let's circle back to don't be so willing right out of the gate to negotiate your commission down to something that's bare bones, because you may have to give it during the transaction, or you don't know what's going to happen. And that hold time might be more even than that 6-month contract. And in that whole time, you're trying to save the client, nurture them, hoping that they will re-up their contract if they have to, because days on market for this market right now are a lot longer, and sellers are having to do a
Yes.
lot more, and conversations are very difficult. But for the buyer, don't be so willing to say, oh, we should come in $100,000 less. They just need to give it away. It's not that market either. You guys got to work together, and you got to literally come to some kind of negotiated point. Don't be so willing at 55 days on market, I guess is what I'm saying, to go, let's just go in at $75,000 low. Average days on market for any price point right now are 30 to 45 before you get your buyer.
Wow. Interesting. Wow, we have covered so much in one question. I literally have two more questions that was prepared for me to ask, but I love organic conversations. I love to pull from what you say because I think it creates a lot more flow. You said something, and here's my next question. I'm actually going to be able to ask my second question now because you said something that connected to it. You said you were on welfare and you were a single mom. So, my question, second question that I actually prepared here is what felt like a devastating failure or setback at the time, but actually ended up setting you up for your biggest success?
Getting a divorce and being on welfare, because I did not, now you got me. I did not want to stay there. It wasn't an option. And so the options that I had helped me. I can just look back at all of it and see the path that it brought, because I became a contractor at a time where the market was failing. So there
Mhm.
wasn't a lot of work,
Mhm.
but I knew my work ethic and I was willing to work hard. That failure, and some don't see divorce as a failure. I did see it as a failure. And I felt like I failed my children, because
Mm.
nobody wants to come from a broken home. And I had come from a broken home, and I did not want to do that to my children. So it felt like a failure. But I am a resilient, gritty kind of gal. And I was like, I want to set them up for success. This is not a place we're staying. I understand it's necessary. There were times when I didn't eat a lot. Because I wanted to just make sure my kids had what they had. Um, the got into contracting. It was not a good time. The market was bottoming out. 2008. Just
Yeah.
everything was crashing out. People didn't have the money. So what I did was I focused on seniors. I knew I could help them. I would go and I would clean their gutters, and I would change their batteries so they didn't have to be. So I would do
Wow.
checklists every quarter. And then that led to little small contracting jobs, because these big contractors were being greedy and they wouldn't go do these small things. So I was like, I will. And being a woman, to be honest, they trusted me more than they did men, because so many of them had been ripped off or overcharged. So did I make a lot of money? No. Did I gain a lot of knowledge? Yes. And that led me to real estate. And then real estate led me to owning my first house ever, right? As a single mom, leading to my daughter going to Berkeley, leading to my youngest going to Western, right? My son getting a better start than I had, right? Just giving somebody a car, being able to help them know what it took to earn a car. So, I didn't just give it to him, but he did things to earn it. So be able to instill those skills. And then my children saw me working hard at the lowest point of my life, which led to now. And, now I'm building my own home. Who would have ever thought, on a 20 acres, right? I'm getting to go through that whole process, which I'm blessed by also, because I could help somebody else do that now. I've been through the tough. Building a home in the gorge is probably one of the toughest kind of things to go through, because you're working with the Gorge Commission potentially, and different things. So having all that knowledge, and then in the middle of it, being able to have done all that and set myself up financially enough to go and take care of my brother during his time of leukemia, I wouldn't have been able to say yes to that, and he wouldn't have gotten the kind of care that he needed. So, all the blessings that came from the grit and the hard work are abundant. I mean, I can look back and I'm still finding them, right? When I get low, or I think this is hard, or really it's been a lot harder, right? I'm so blessed right now that had I not went through all that, the abuse growing up, different things, I wouldn't be here right now. So yeah, I would say the failure of my marriage. It's not something you're proud of, right? But a lot of good things came out of it.
Absolutely, and I'm so proud of you. It's one of those things that and I'm with you with all of that because I too have my own resilience experience that made me who I am today. but that's what makes you who you are. It's
Mhm.
tough. It's tough to embrace, but when you look back, it is really what's needed to happen. I call it's like the pressure, right? The pressure when you pressure
Yes.
a diamond, it turns into this
Yeah.
beautiful diamond, or a coal, I should say,
Cool.
turns
Yeah.
into this beautiful diamond. And so it's a process just like anything else, whether it's a jam, a human being, a
Yeah.
career, all of those things. Now,
Yeah.
you talked about referrals, and I want to make sure that I let the world know because we are, global. If you have a referral, Dawn is going to be taking your referrals. And she
Yes,
can also send you
please.
referrals. So her information is going to be
Yes.
down there. Last question before we go, because oh my gosh, you talk so much about so many things that I literally have probably 10 more questions, but no time. Last question. What is, to close this episode, what is the one aspect of your day to day work process that people watching from the outside completely misunderstand?
I don't know that they understand the facets period of what we have to do on the daily just to generate one lead. I mean, it literally is like I'm calling, I'm making touches, I'm making sure I come from what I call contribution, right?
Right.
When I can help you, business comes from that, right? So, and I'm not doing that in a greedy way. I'm just saying, hey, when I make phone calls, it's very organic. It's like, hey, how are you doing? How can I support your business? Selfishly, how can I put you in my Rolodex? Because then I'm going to refer you to somebody, right? So coming from contribution has always produced business for me. I think that people think the quote, nurturing or cold calling or whatever we're doing, they think of it in a different way as like you're trying to sell a washer and dryer. I'm trying to cultivate relationships that will then lead to business, right? Which
Hmm.
also bless my life. I mean, let's be honest. You are one of my best friends, and I never would have met you had I not stepped out and came to Friendsgiving, been to some networking things that you had been to. And what we both know is networking's not really the thing.
Yep.
The relationships are the thing, right? So I don't think people understand in this business when they come into it how to get it. I have to help them understand your sphere is not just people that come to your mind right away. Your sphere is your husband's work. Your sphere is the people that you go out and network. I got so much business from being involved in my kids' schools, and I didn't even like go there and mine for gold. I just was present. And then they started to find out, like my kids would talk. They're like, well, my mom sells houses, right? Before you knew it, I sold like 4 teachers' houses, right? So I think that people don't understand the networking or the cultivation and the business prospecting that we do, right? It's not like when you do inside sales or something like that. We're really
Hmm.
cultivating relationships that lead to business.
Yes.
So,
I know I said one last question, but I just want to say that Dawn hosts this huge party before we go every single year. And it hasn't even been, I know you started it with your client appreciation, but I think there's a lot of people that comes to it that you talk about relationships, your contractor relationships and vendors. I mean, just everybody that's surrounding you. And it has gotten really, really big. And that says a lot about you. So, 200 people last year, this year, I'm not even sure how many people, but it just continues to thrive. So, congratulations on all of your success, Dawn.
thank you. Well, you know what that says to me is, I think when your heart's in the right place and you come from, I'm a believer. I just think that what God puts on my heart is what I'm supposed to do,
Yep.
and I want to spoil everybody that has supported me. And I've been doing that party for about 10 years. When I lived in town, I started it, and it's grown to be what it is. And the best compliment I get every year is not, oh my gosh, the food, the this, that, the other. It's when I left, I knew 2 other people that are now going to be part of my tribe. And that is just when we hear that, we're just so excited. We're so like, okay, cool. First of all, people that might have been shy met some people, but
Mhm.
second of all, other people are making connections. And that is my life. If I can just connect people, I wouldn't even have to get paid for it. If I could just say, here, meet this person, here, you need this, then I've accomplished, my goal.
That's wonderful. Well, Dawn, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for listening. We have had so much fun. And I mean, we went really fast. I know the podcast
I feel like it
1.0
did.
Yeah, 1.0 was we talked a lot about life, but I'm so glad we talked a lot about your profession, your career, and all the things. So make sure you check out Dawn. Her information is down below, and we will see you on the next one.